Alright, people, how's that for an introduction? It's been a while. I have this going as I go. So, today here at Performabuilt, I have finally found time to do a video for a customer. I know a lot of you were a little disappointed, but that I've turned you down, but please understand it's tax time and we are slammed, especially this year. Not only that, with all the craziness that's going on in the world, we have other obstacles with shipping and stuff that we have to deal with, which kind of slows us down a little bit. However, still faster than most, and we are really working hard for you car guys sitting at home during all this craziness, bored, trying to work on your race car. We got you. So, today, this is not a how-to video. This is for Ray from Badger Tuners with a 2000 Silverado. Pretty hopped up, 456 gears, good amount of power adders. So this is a brief video for him, for his reference, for his company too. And not only that, this is just kind of to show you what our level 3 is kind of about, which is the transmission that me and him both have settled on for his particular application. So going back to how-to videos, we have those on YouTube. Feel free to check them out. There's also, it's not just a 60, we have the 200, the 4L80, a variety of other transmissions that are much more in-depth videos than this is going to be. That being said, I do take the time to read the comments on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I run all those. And you are directly talking to me if you are messaging us on those. However, one thing I want to stress that I've kind of been dealing with more often than not is I'm getting a lot of phone calls of guys trying to do their own based on that video, or, you know, simply asking me to type an entire insane spec sheet out more times than not. So here's what I'm going to tell you. How-to videos that I do are more or less to show you that we know what we're doing, that this is what would go into a particular level, and give you a broad overview of that particular transmission and maybe help you out as a guide. But you need to take that with a grain of salt. There's many factors. I don't know your skill set as a builder. Don't know if you've ever touched a transmission. So if you make a mistake that's pretty uncommon, it's something I would never guess, and I'm going to pick at the uncommon stuff. So I can't really help you. If you want to try to save money and do it your way, that's your risk. All in all, if you call, and this has been a big issue lately, if you call and ask me what you did wrong during your build, or you have somebody else's that's doing this, please don't even bother. I don't have time for it. If you don't have a Performabuilt unit, please do not call us and ask for help. We've tried to do it in the past, but lately it's got so overwhelming that we actually have spent more time on the phone than we have working. So it's going to stop. So don't be surprised if we just politely tell you that we can't help you unless you have our unit. If you do call in asking for help. If you get stuck, my whole advice is please rewatch the video and start over. They do cover a lot of things. If you are a brand new beginner, my videos are not for you. You may want to try a transmission bench first, and that guy is really excellent, really thorough, really professional, and it goes down to the bare essentials that most advanced builders should know. Again, this is not a how-to video. This is for Ray, for his 2000 some Silverado. Getting into it, we have a couple features on this video. He's opted for some extra parts, which are available as an add-on to any transmission that you might order. All you got to do is go on the website and you'll see a big list of stuff you can add, you know, that may be optional, and there will be additional pricing and all of that. So one of the things that we're doing is he opted for the Sonax 6-pinion reduction. It's not any stronger. Don't get confused. It is just a ratio reduction, even though it looks very fancy and very tough, which it is. It's strong. It's about as strong as a 5-pinion. All it really does is, mostly for the track guys, it gets rid of that 306 first gear ratio and that big RPM drop. So we drop it down to 284, and it keeps your RPM way up in the power band where it should be, especially on wide open constant shifts like that. The only other thing I really think I ought to talk about is, you know, just sit back and enjoy. You know, I'm back at this. It's been a while. I'm getting back in the swing of things. I got hit by an SUV a week ago on my bicycle, so if I stop and stutter a little bit, it's just I'm getting there, back in my head. So there's that. Please deal with that. So yeah, if you are looking at any of our builds, please, you know, things are important with the information that we ask you to give us. You can either go on our website, appropriately fill out the form, everything I need to know, or please call or message us. We want to talk to you about your build and really know what you want, instead of just blatantly sending an order through. So you can either call the 888 number on our website at www.performabuilt.com, and that's 888-744-6542. We do answer the phone off business hours, so there really is no excuse. Just get a hold of us. So I guess we'll jump right into this thing. I don't really got a lot off the top of my head that I want to stress or talk about. So, going back to reading the comments. One thing, I've answered these a million times now, but I'm just going to say it in the beginning while I have your attention. So, I got a lot of people complaining, and the internet's never going to stop complaining, because that's all people really seem good at, especially nowadays. I get silly questions like, I should say statements, I can't believe he's not soaking the clutches, or I can't believe this and that. Part of the reason of these videos and why we're so big is because the thing, you may want to just reevaluate that comment. The things I'm doing, you may want to think about doing, because even though you weren't taught that way, what I'm doing with our track record obviously works. And we have little to no failures. You're stupid if you go into business and think you're never going to have a failure. That's completely asinine and wrong. But ours are the lowest. Our 4L60s and other 4-speeds also last the longest, and they hold the most. We've developed a hell of a reputation on the internet for that, and we are one of the biggest out there for that. So, before you go keyboard ninjaing it up, please consider that you may be doing it the wrong way, or what you were taught is wrong, or they're just, maybe nothing's wrong as long as it works. And what I'm doing obviously has worked. The clutches, some of the other things I'm not going to bother explaining, but the clutches I will explain. When you have a dynamometer, you can soak these plenty fast, running it for an extended period of time and giving it no load. It is impossible to burn a clutch up with no load. It just can't happen unless you seriously mess something up, like a bind up and there's a cross bleed and things are just fighting each other, like reverse and forward. But in our case, typically nobody here messes up like that, and we have very smooth dyno runs. So when you have a dyno, no, you don't need to soak when you can operate it properly. And you need to run it an extended period of time, which we do for the customer, so there is no break-in. They can just get our transmission and go. And that's the beauty of us. If you were installing it directly into a vehicle, though, I would say yes, go ahead and soak them overnight or something. That's smart to do. It's not as easy as it would be for me. So, jumping right in. It is a beautiful Wednesday, a little rainy here. While you guys are sitting at home on quarantine, let me entertain you. Watch me work. Maybe you'll learn something new if you've never done this before. So, our level 3, plenty of Sonax parts, some stock parts, some the better GM performance parts. So it's a mix mash of everything. When we do a build for a customer, and when I tell you to call in and I encourage you to talk to us, it's because of there are so many variables, and the way we build here, if you go on our website and you look at our builds, and you aren't just gonna ask me every little thing when you can just go check it out. We have a parts list, okay? It is readily available, it's in black and white, and everything you pretty much need to know and everything that I'm willing to tell you is there. There's certain things I leave out, like hydraulic modifications and very special Performabuilt ones. Because as you know, we make our own shift kits. We don't use anybody's. There's a million builders that use Transgo and everything else. We don't want to be like everybody else. So we custom make our own valve work. We do our own shift kit per spec to each and every vehicle. So when you watch these how-to videos, there's no one way to do it. There just isn't. If you want our build, you just got to buy it. I'm not going to tell you how. So it comes down to even the clutches. We do list clutches, but I will use better clutches if I feel the need. It all depends. So if you call me and ask how to do it, 1, I'm going to tell you I don't have time. 2, I'm going to tell you I buy what I feel like, equal or better parts, what's listed on the website, and I do things how I see fit. It's all experience. So we're going to nail this in with our rear ring gear. Stock piece, very strong, typically fine. Little bearing, assembly goo, good bushing work, spin everything all the time. Make sure everything moves and there's no weird noises. You never know when you have you're rebuilding your core that blew up, and you never know when you have a loose pinion or a piece of whatever it is that's caught in the teeth that, that you may have missed. That's your second chance to catch things. We're moving on our level 3, which again, good for 900 wheel horsepower based on 36 to 4,000 pound vehicle. All of our ratings are based on weight. So if you have a 6,000 pound truck and you want a level 2 that's good for 7, and you have 700 horsepower, that's fine, but being 2,000 pounds over has officially made that not for you. If you think about it, you're asking the transmission that what it's rated for, 700 horsepower, wheel horsepower to 3,800 pounds, we can do that. That's expected. You weigh 6,000, you're asking it to move 2 cars just as fast. It's just a common sense, common denominator that, you need to think about if you don't talk to us and you order. If we catch it, we will call you and we will talk to you about it and go from there. So, laying in our 5-pinion Planet. Gorgeous piece. This is genuine GM, OEM. A lot of companies, they do use the overseas 5-pinion, which are known to explode. You gotta watch what parts you're getting from other companies. If they say 5 pinions, you may not be getting this one, so be aware. Ask questions. Beautiful spin, and that's some good bushing work. All the bushings are done prior to the video. It just takes too much time, and I've even had comments where guys are like, why don't you show this, why don't you show that? If you don't know how to put in a bushing, you shouldn't be doing any of this. There's certain things you should know how to do that are just basic things. If you do know how to do them, then you can move on to understanding how all this actually works. Otherwise, like I said, go to Transmission Bench. That guy's great. I'm sorry, there it is. Super professional, and really gets down to the basics. I mean, down to each and every piston and O-ring. That guy is fantastic. So if you're brand new, go watch that. Come back to this later. We're gonna go into low reverse clutch set. 5 steels, 5 clutches, 1 wave plate, and they do go in a certain way. Notch tang facing you. And then a steel, because of course we can't have a clutch riding on a wave. And you layer them in like a sandwich. One thing I want to talk about while I'm doing this, and I'll throw little tidbits here and there while I'm stacking clutches or whatever. Some other concerns I have are we provide with every transmission a nice thick booklet of instructions, and it's included with every single one in the box. Please start reading them. Nearly 95% of the customers I have no idea it's even there, and they throw it away like everything else. So that's not wasting your time. It's really there for you and to save a lot of aggravation. Please read it. Everything's in there. Converter spacing, filling it up, fill procedure. We even, on most vehicles, have separate take out, install instructions for the entire job, if you're really lost at that. So that's there for your reference and your benefit. Next thing will be, we have our spring clip. We'll be throwing that in. And our low roller Sprag with our Sonax race. Really tough billet race. And a little, I love this oiler. It's been with me for many years. I'm going to use it a whole bunch in this video. And that goes in a certain way as well. Firm push with your hand, ought to seat it. And our snap ring to secure all that. And the snap ring should not touch the spring clip at all. Alright, nextly, one of the modifications we do is the wide bushing in the sun gear. I use a double bushing. They do fit and they are wider than the wide bushing. So if you install them appropriately, you actually get a little more surface area doing this. And it is probably the single most important modification to the 4L60. For the guys telling me it's wrong, you should buy a wide bushing, look at my track record, bud. I'm the only one out here that's making them do what they're supposed to do. Okay. That being said, along with the billet race comes the Sonax Smart Shell. Good piece. A little bit stronger than the Beast. The Beast is suitable for most applications, but the cool thing about this is this comes in our level 3 in black edition. It is balanced. It is a little bit better for higher RPM applications. But let's say you only need a level 2, whereas you would get a Beast. On our website when you purchase, or you can ask for it for a little bit of nothing, we can upgrade you to this bad boy. If you're turning those real high RPMs, it reduces vibration overall, and very strong, and it's also rollerized instead of the washer. So anything can be added on to any level transmission. We will always get you something that works. They tend to be a tight fit sometimes. You will have to be a little firm pushing it down on the sun gear. I like to, just run a thin layer of assembly lube on some of the bushings, the bearings. I typically just try to use oil for the bearings. I've had one guy recently tell me about wheel bearing grease. Please don't do that. They make assembly lube for a reason. Don't use wheel bearing grease. It's a horrible idea. It doesn't, that stuff doesn't dissolve the way this does in the fluid when it gets hot. There's a reason we do what we do. Reaction tube. Not really a whole lot to say about it. Sonax makes a piece now that's billet, but to be honest, if you do this right, you don't need it. We've been doing this for many, many years, since 2006, and this is actually the part that we've never had problems with. Same with the low roller. If you build a transmission correctly and know what you're actually doing, there's a lot of stock parts that actually will perform very flawlessly for a very long time. There's a lot of, I know a lot of local builders do this more than most shops, but there are a lot of people, and I get this call often, that they're like, I want yours, but this guy said, this builder said, I need this, this, and a smart drum, and a billet this and a billet that for 500 horsepower. Whoa. No, you don't. A lot of builders use these heavy, great billet parts, which are better, don't get me wrong, but they're using it as a band-aid. The real problems are in your valve body, in your pump, in your case. There's a lot of fluid that needs rerouted to do different things, and if you haven't took the time to re-engineer it, all you're getting is a band-aided up transmission that acts stock with those fancy parts, and you're just wasting your money. That's partially why we can make this drum last to 900 horsepower off 3,800 pounds. We use a 13 vein rotor all the way up to 1,400 wheel horsepower, which we have already done, and that will be out soon. 1,200 so far in a GTO is still kicking 3 years later. There's a lot of parts everybody complains about. There's nothing wrong with them. It's what you're doing. So when you're doing a transmission in general, especially this one, the 4L60, it is detail oriented, and it takes a little bit of know-how and thinking. One thing I've definitely learned over my career in doing quite a bit of other transmissions like the 4R70W, the 4L80, the 400, the AOD, AODE, they are all kind of great from the factory. Like, there's not a whole lot wrong with them. They're very strong from the get-go. Unfortunately, and they're not easy, you know, they're not hard to modify either. They're relatively easy to build. Why this thing is so difficult and why everybody has a hard time with it is because it not only came out in everything GM ever made basically in the last 20 years, but there is so much more work that this thing needs. I'm talking hundreds of modifications and hundreds of parts. I think the actual number is like 1,000 something, but I'm not sure. I have pictures of it all over my desk. Check it out. Facebook. Our Facebook's wonderful. Got the rear. Now we'll go to our 6-pinion. It comes with a bigger forward Sprag gear. Gorgeous piece. Look at this piece. That's super nice. I love it. So, a little bit of grease. It's going to work super well with the 456 gears that he has. Simple drop-in. And then we have our stock shaft, all shined up, nice and pretty, inspected, rolled, and straight. So that's another thing I'm going to get flack on. I can't believe you're using a stock shaft. You need billet this, billet. No, you don't. Like I said before, it's all about how you do it. And if you have any doubts, argue with me about, you can argue with the rest of the internet when they're vouching for our product, because it does work. And we've done it time and time again since before anybody. We are the OG. We just don't quite have the advertising budget some of these other guys have. But maybe someday we will. Next, our shaft clip. Simple click, pop, and a bungee strap really makes for this quick work if you're doing it by yourself. Holds it in, lets you put that clip in, nice and easy. Get to be a little lazy about it. I'm sold. That being said, we're going to put this in now. This is our forward Sprag gear, and you need to be mindful when you buy that piece. It will come with this. This piece can adapt to both kinds of Sprags. One Sprag gear will have a slight ridge right here, some will not. This ridge is for the type of Sprag that has clips on the back side of this. However, if you don't have that kind of Sprag, it will simply still work without clearance issues and pop right in there. That being said, we don't need this piece. It can go right in there. Okay, so before we do input drum, clutches and stuff, I'm gonna do the another big modification in the 60 is the Borgwarner dual cage Sprag. Pretty essential in any build. And again, with the appropriate modifications, we have made this hold all the way up to 1400 wheel. So this is pretty much the best you can get. And for the guys breaking this, saying they need a 4L80, go look at the 4L80 Sprag. It is made of a single layer of plastic and it is not impressive. The only reason it really holds up that great is because it's got some big clutches supporting it. Otherwise, it is a lot weaker. So keep that in mind. A lot of times when you hear I need a 4L80, no you don't. You just need something a little bit better in your 60, or stop having Joe Schmo try to build it. Everything should be a relatively tight fit. First we put our race on. Assembly goo. Use the rest of our assembly goo on the outer race. Because keep in mind, this is similar to a bearing. This will free spin and lock in certain gears. And it needs to be taken care of and lubed up on its initial startup. Top race, forward hub. Sonex also makes a forward hub piece now, which we actually do use sometimes, but it's very, very, very rare. So all in all, you should have a clockwise free roll motion and a locking counterclockwise motion if you've done it correctly. We're going to put our Sprag bearing in here so we don't forget about it. If you do forget, it's going to make a hell of a lot of noise. Layering clutches, we are using Borgwarner Allomatic combination and just plain Jane steels. They are the best. Choline is a waste. I cannot preach that enough. Starting with our overrun steels, we have 2, followed by clutch each, and our ply plate. What's up, boss?
2 sitting over there.
Sweet. No, can't touch it? Can't touch it? See you later. I'm doing a video right now. No, you're good. That being said, we have our wave plate. Shake our Sprag in, because it's easier to shake on 2 clutches rather than 7. So good luck. If you can shake that Sprag in with 5 forward clutches and 2 overruns, you're my hero. On a wave, we'll do a steel. And then it's simply clutch steel, clutch steel. And I'd like to point out that for once, this video is kind of the real deal. I actually haven't prepped a ton of things. I've prepped some of it, like the 3/4, which takes me an insane amount of time to do. But otherwise, and the the pistons in the input drum and the sleeve, you know, things that you actually have to sit there and install and press on and pull out and etc. Those things are done. I don't want to spend the time doing it, but a lot of these other things, like I will actually be doing the reverse input drum today. I will be doing the pump start to finish. As you know, the valve body I've already done, and for those guys that are going to ask me about it, no, I will never, ever, ever share what goes into our valve body, because number one, it's constantly changing. Number two, most people can't even put this thing together, so why would I even get into that complicated thing? And number three, that's what makes us unique. If you truly want what we have, you just have to go out, spend the money, and purchase it, and I promise you won't regret it. Our 4L60s and other transmissions are insanely unique, and you will see that and feel that when you install it, and you can blatantly tell. Especially with one of the modifications that I'm doing to this 4L60, and this all comes from hydraulics, mostly, a little bit of welding. We support the forward Sprag here that I've just installed, which is a known failure in much of the heavier vehicles like the Tahoes, the Suburbans, you know, the big 2500s, etc., especially on a hard hit. We support that all the time through all the ranges, including drive. However, the cool thing is it lets the transmission, instead of coasting to a stop, it actually feels very similar to a straight drive when you let off the clutch and slow down. It's engine braking. But this time it's through all the ranges, manual 1, 2, and 3, and D1, 2, and 3. You can still coast in fourth and cruise on the highway like you normally would, and that's the beauty about it, and we are the only ones that do this. It is unique to us, and it's something we've figured out, and you're only going to get it through a Performabuilt unit. Moving on to the 3/4, our very, very famous 3/4 clutch pack. We have little to no 3/4 failures. You want to avoid that problem, buy this. So we have our apply plate that I have machined up, you know, taken care of, and we're using 7 regular thickness steels with the Borgwarner carbon clutch. Great clutches, really good for grip, and they last a very long time. So this one I do have pre-done, and we're just going to layer them in one at a time. And I'm sorry that's so boring to you, but I'm not going to tell you how to make a 3/4 last. I'm sorry. It's my secret. If you want it to last, buy my unit. So you just layer them in like anything else. And we're sitting at 20 thousandths. Yep. Nothing changed overnight. The gremlins didn't get me. They didn't steal my 10mm either. So then our custom release springs. That makes it sound pretty cool. No, I will not sell you parts either. Please do not ask. And I'm really not trying to sound mean about it. It's just, we do a certain thing, and if you want that certain thing, that's what you need to pay for. Okay, beautiful. As Jim Carrey said, beautiful. So, we have a nice free spinning clutch, nice little bump, a little bit of space for the hot oil to get in between the clutches. When you break down a 20 thousandths clearance, I know that sounds very tight, but when you divide that by each clutch, each steel, and that little bit of maybe 2 to 3 thousandths in between that oil takes up, that's your recipe right there. That's just straight science. That's right. So, I do want to give our little detail that a lot of people miss. Give your spring cages a poke. You know, they should sling out just fine on startup against the wall, but if they are in contact with a clutch, it will shred either a little bit at the outside of the clutch or the teeth actually holding that release spring in. And they are essential. They prevent centrifuge. There's a lot of people argue with me that they are the 3-4 killers. Again, look at my track record, baby. No, they're not. They prevent centrifuge. When you are in first, second, these clutches, being as first and second get to high RPMs, these clutches can actually apply from the centrifugal force, which is going to sling everything out and push it back. That's going to give you a premature burn up, and it's actually going to hurt other gears as well because they're fighting that very slight apply. It's not going to lock it down, and you won't notice until the fluid turns black, and then you wind up in the RPMs, you know, couple weeks later, then you'll notice. So we have our 3-4 done, forward sprags in, forward overrun clutches, all of our piston work. This has the billet Sonex overrun piston in it as well, which I forgot to mention, along with that sleeve. You do need that to work with that. Couple small details. There are a couple little orifices in this drum for bleed offs and a little release check ball for the third clutch. You want to make sure those are operating properly. Simply really by air checking would be fine. Put a little oil on it. Those aren't working. It could just be dumping fluid if they're stuck open, which is not going to give you the pressure you need, you know, to actually have a healthy clutch pack. It's just going to prematurely burn up. If they're stuck closed, fluid can't release, it's going to stay applied, you're going to get a bind up. We'll be installing our Teflon rings as soon as I find my tool, which is handy little overly expensive specialty tool, which you will just, that's the norm in the transmission world. Everything is expensive. And this is just a little, you don't want to stretch it too much, but you want to stretch it as little as you can at the same time, be as quick as you can, and I really recommend you do one at a time, kind of like this, you know, put one ring on, size it. Me, I just do them all because I've probably done, I know I've done thousands of 4L60s. I just think it's upwards of 3,000 or so. And really be careful not to roll the ring or overstretch it. Teflon has it's got some flexibility, but it's not like a rubber band. If you overstretch it, and one, you're gonna have trouble getting them sized. Number two is, believe it or not, even though they're not made of metal, these things are spinning so fast, because this is directly connected to your converter, that it's kind of like our favorite tool, the angle grinder. That's just a flimsy little fiber disc, but I tell you what, you get it spinning fast, it'll cut through an inch of steel. That's a bad example. It'll take a while to cut through an inch of steel, but it'll cut through steel pretty quickly. Same concept. Not made of anything to be proud of, but spinning fast, it will cut into your pump stator. And the farther you go up, sizing the rings, you'll use your judgment, and the less time you'll take. Notice that one, I spent no time on the sizer and went straight down on it. Okay. Nice and smooth like butter. Okay. One thing you can do at this point in the game is, one, install your end play washer, which you may need to play with, and install your bearing. This is the OEM way. This is the way I do it. Not only does it bring end play up a little bit, the theory behind the OEM way is actually wrong if you ever did look into it. There are two separate parts to this bearing, but one, it was intentional. It wasn't intentional that they wouldn't both be used, but it really turns out that one isn't used at all. So it's better just to give more surface area on the drum and let the bearing do its job better. And it's as simple as flipping it. Some people would still argue that's wrong, but again, who's making them last here? Me or you? I sound a little snide, but it's really because I don't feed it. I play along, but I am getting a little sick of the smart remarks out of just, you know, who knows who you are. Alright. These need time to size. So we have set it aside, let those rings size up. We're going to be doing the reverse input drum. Caught it. Good old sweatpants. Now, reverse input drum has a couple functions. It is in charge of partially reverse, second, and partially fourth. It is one of the drums you need to modify if you're installing a trans brake. Trans brakes are not bolt-on, ever. You need to take this whole thing apart and do things to each piece to make sure it works right. So let's crack that myth right there. This is hard for most people. This takes practice. You got two lip seals. One that goes in the center of your apply piston, lip facing down. That way it can grab and fluid can't blow by it. And again, I've been getting some comments about you should do more close-ups and this and that. One, I don't have the camera or the cable for it because there's about 100 feet of that here. And number two, if you're truly that much of a beginner, like I said, go to Transmission Bench. I'm not here to hold your hand. This video is for guys that kind of have been there, looking to maybe just put some better parts in for moderate power. I don't think a lot of you are just going to be able to make it hold 700, but I have guys that have had, I have guys that have had huge success from my videos, but you know what? I think it's because they had experience and they knew what they were doing and they took their time and they followed, all the directions, and that's really what it's about. This one you will want to use definitely assembly goo, a little bit of everywhere. Okay, you have the option of two tools. If you're advanced, this bad boy, you can purchase them anywhere. They also make a great door jimmy tool. To show guys that probably haven't done hundreds of thousands of these, this piece used to come in the kits. I don't think it does anymore, but you can buy one or cut your kids' school supplies in a circle. It's really the same thing. One of them Lisa Frank folders or whatever, those colorful rainbow ones or something. But what you're going to do is take this, run it around the center, drop your first lip seal past the clip, and while giving a very slight push down, you're going to walk this around till you feel the tight spot. And this is a important piece that you cannot force this. This just takes time. And you'll feel it drop, and it just drops. So sometimes that little installer will get stuck. Get a rag, pull it out, sink the piston. Done. Quick, easy, painless. This is the first piece I make new guys do when we're training them, because it's a great example. It really tests your patience. There's tons of lip seals and a lot of other transmissions, and it kind of teaches you that special transmission touch. You know, I was a mechanic before this, and it ain't like that. Everything with a mechanic is rough, and this is not. This is gentle, mostly all with your hands. You know, just kind of going with it. And we're using Borgwarner reverse clutches, wave plate steel, clutch steel, clutch steel. There are only 4. There's no reason to use more than 4. In special circumstances, you can use 5 on a trans brake, but I don't recommend that because, as far as I know, we're the only company that installs a trans brake on the 4L60, so leave that up to me. You can also go about this in one of 2 ways. You can install the clutches. Piston, regardless, has to be installed first. You can install the clutches and then do the spring cage, or do the spring cage and install the clutches. Either way will work for you. Snap ring placement does not matter. I do it clutch, then spring cage. You will need a little spring compressor. Like butter. Okay, so that's assembled. You know, wiggle around your clutches, check your clearance. Clearance is not essential. It will be anywhere from, it really looks like 20 to 30 thousandths if I had to guesstimate. Probably closer to 30 thousandths. Not critical. One major thing you want to check on this drum is that surface right there. That is your band surface. Okay, band, wide bands especially, which we are using a very special blend unique to us. This surface and this band utilizes the entire surface. The OEM band just uses a little bit in the middle. That's why it really can't hold anything. Flimsy little band, we're stepping it up almost double the size. That increases the holding power of this component. So all you really got to do is take a good straight edge and just run it across, you know, a few multiple points on the drum. This one's perfectly straight. We don't reuse these out of cores anyway. We buy them. So, but with bought parts, I've had flaws. It doesn't hurt to check. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's good, guys. So that's another thing a lot of people forget. Remove your sizer. Turn this bad boy upside down. Shake it. Sometimes you gotta fight with it, sometimes you don't. Put your sizer back on. This assembly is going to be dropped in just like that. Where these will make contact with the sun gear, or sun shell, I mean, these tangs, and this will spline into the forward or front ring gear reaction tube assembly, that big wonky piece with the stem. So part of what I was gonna talk about here was, since I have all the pieces in front of me that actually make this work, you're actually looking at second, fourth, and reverse right here. What this does is, the reason why that surface is important is because, you know, in second, you just have the reverse input drum, okay? This is all that's happening. The band grabs this. In fourth, you have this servo piston applying this. You have 3/4 clutches being applied, and there's your fourth. And for reverse, you also have the band applied, these input clutches applied, and the rear ones applied, and there's your reverse. You know, when you're talking gears, and this isn't too technical, so I could get real into it, but now is not the time for this video. I could go into what each piece moves and what doesn't. But just to give you a broad, general overview, that's how this works. Clutches, everything is moving with the motion of the motor, and when shifts are being made, all you're doing is stopping a particular component. The other components react and either freewheel or turn at different rates, which changes the ratio, which changes the gear. All a gear is a different ratio of previously spinning components. So, in a nutshell, that's what we're doing. And then, to make it stronger, for example, second gear, we have a wider component which grabs more area. We have more area on our fluid applying the component, which creates more holding power. And then what you do is you figure, I have this badass piece, I have this badass piece, and I'm utilizing this entire piece. That is the most holding power I'm going to get for second gear. When you back it up with the hydraulics to put fluid, pressure, and volume to it, that's where you're going to start figuring things out. That's where you're going to look at the vehicle and figure out, how much do I really need to do here? That's exactly what we do. So that being said, this piece now is going to get dropped in. Something that you may forget, okay? Don't forget this little guy. Easily forgotten if it's not directly attached to the Sprag. Another good thing to do is, if you're building your first time, is to lay all the pieces out. If you have a piece left over, you have messed up. Pretty easy to figure out. All I'm doing now is grabbing my little homemade tool here. It's a converter hub and a piece of rebar. But you want to shake this in using a pulling up, twisting motion. Sometimes putting it in park will help. And we're done. Sometimes that takes a little bit of effort. Other times it just sinks. It's all a gamble. And if the clutches are wet, you're going to get a workout. If they're dry, it's a little bit easier. Okay, that's in. Now we're going to put our band in. Band anchor pin. Little screwdriver to help you out here. Keep spinning. Move up our servo bore. Our return spring, put that right in there. And this is one thing I haven't done during the previous to the video. So you want to remove that O-ring, because once that's in, you're not getting it back. The case will keep it from you. That is our Sonax second gear servo. Comes in our level 2-3 black edition. And of course, our very famous fourth gear servo. Big shiny, Performabuilt all over it. That's how you know you got a good product. Now I have another special tool here. This is a wood clamp from Lowe's Hardware, and you're doing this by yourself. This is fantastic. Watch this. This is great. I actually had another builder tell me he learned something from me because of this tool. If your band's a little cocked, spinning it a little bit will actually bring it up. And what this does is you clamp it and it pushes it in against that spring for you. So there's no, I need 3 hands and I'm fighting with all the clips or anything. We have our snap ring. Ooh, very nice. Okay, and we'll check 4th. Okay, and just for reference, because I want to make sure all these little parts of my pump, it is a good idea to even just simply set the pump backing into the case. And what that does is helps center the band a little bit, give you a little bit more accurate of a band clearance. Also lets you know if there's something wrong with the band, or you know, if you're too tight, or vice versa, etc., etc. Good. Now what I'm doing is just checking multiple points of travel here. Okay, excellent. You always want to push on the pump pretty firmly and turn your output shaft. Make sure you can turn it both ways. Now that we've got that said and done, something to be aware of, and this is a real helpful tip, and I'm being genuine about it, is if you get all this done, bolted together, your pump's in, and you flip this over and turn your shaft, and you can't turn it clockwise, you probably have too tight of a band, or it's just not quite in there contacting the case, or you have an end play issue, which goes back to that input drum washer, or you could have something down here that's not quite right. Maybe you put in too many low reverse clutches, or the low rollers are selective in height. Maybe that one's too tall and it's locking it down. Just a couple real things to check. Okay, so after you verify your band clearance, pull that out, put your O-ring back on, because now it's time to finish that. And I think I'm going to need to change my batteries in my mic soon. If I go dead, it's just because my mic battery went dead, but I will fix that appropriately when the time comes. Set this aside. Alright, now we're moving on to the pump. So, the backing, I've already done our all of our valve work. This is the heart and soul of any transmission. This is your heart, pumps your blood. That's right. So, pumps the fluid. Pressure comes from the pump, not the converter. Be mindful of that. A couple things to check if you aren't moving or, you know, no gears. Pull the line pressure plug over here, or pop a cooler line off into a bucket or something real quick, and just crank it over real quick. Don't need to leave it run, just, you know, 1 or 2 seconds will be more than enough. And if you have no fluid, chances are you broke this bad boy. And if you broke this bad boy, it's not the part. And I'm tired of people saying that. It's only come from really one thing, 2 things. You have a bad flex plate that is worn out or faulty, or you didn't get your converter spacing right, which is 1/8 to 3/16. An eighth is preferred. The easiest way to do that is just put a drill bit or an Allen key between your pads and check. And if you can just slide it in there, that's where it ought to be. Please don't waste your time trying to get a micrometer up in there. I don't know of any mics that'll actually fit up in that bell housing hole, and you won't be able to measure accurately, and you will be wrong. That's a terrible idea. So the pump backing, we have our screen in. It's been turned. You know, you need to make sure these are flat. And bushing, stator, boost valve, you know, all that good jazz that I'm not going to get into because it is a secret. Pump face, turned, bushing, Durabond. See how nice that is? Make sure it's nice. So in here, I have a little O-ring. Goes in here. Again, I'm just moving along. I'm trying to do a little bit of, you know, helpful tips, but this video, I'm not too concerned. Again, this is for Ray if you're just tuning in. If you want a how-to, check the YouTube. If you can't Google search or find our YouTube, I can't help you. Put our Teflon and rubber down in the slot and our pin. Couple things to check on those 3 pieces. That rubber's got to be round. That Teflon's got to be good. And that pin can't have any ridges on it from rubbing against the face, and it will get that with high mileage. That will cause the slide to actually get slack and not be able to work back and forth like it should. We're using a stock spring, no stop. When you have a properly working pump, there's no reason to stick the slide. There's no reason for a insane, completely stiff aftermarket pump spring. You're already making a mistake by buying into that stuff. Now we have our 13 vein rotor, which is no different than the 10 vein. It pumps the same volume, the same pressure. It's not any stronger. I don't know really why. If there is a slight difference and you want to back it up and get in my face with scientific fact, you can. But the difference is going to be so minuscule that it's not going to matter anyway. And I'm personally just going to be like, okay, great, good for you. So after our 13 vein rotors in, we're just putting in our little veins. There are 13 of them. It is important to check the wear if you're rebuilding a core on each side, because what happens is these rings ride on that and they start wearing into it. So if at all possible in your build, even if it's your junkyard, backyard, core, whatever you want to call it, the pump is one thing I ask you to just spend the money on and not take any shortcuts with. That all being said and done, we have our top ring, and that should fit tight. You know, you should be able to get it in, obviously, but there should be zero movement. If you do have movement, it just means those little square guys are worn out. Give it a spin. As with any oil pump, on its startup, load it up with some fluid. One thing I want to stress is the 60 pump, please do not pack it with grease. It's not that type of oil pump. Grease will break that thing or cause it to, you know, lock up or whatever. Now, a pump that's gear driven like the 4L80 or any Ford, you don't want to use oil. Just assembly goo, you know, don't pack as much as you possibly can fit. That is wrong, but pack some in there, okay? Be reasonable about it because it does need help priming. This is the best pump GM ever made. Everybody talks shit on it, but no. This thing is capable of pumping 400 pounds of pressure, which no transmission should ever go that high, but it is capable of that. Ask me how I know. And there's a lot of flexibility, okay? Look at how much that rotor can move. There is so much flexibility there for error. If you mess up on your end, it will at least get you home probably. You do that with a 4L80 pump or a Ford, you won't make it out of the driveway. I promise. If you just, there is zero room for error, zero room for fault on your spacing, anything like that. Slide it over to my hole. And one thing I know that, because I always get shit for it, is it's going to be controversial. But you know what? Maybe take a page from my book instead of telling me what to do. We're going to line this pump up a little differently. It's the way we've been doing it for years and years and years. In my opinion, it is a better way to do it. Some of those tools to align these things are absolutely terrible out there. And another thing that bothers me is the tools require you to line it up out of the case. Which if you know, it can only go on one way, and if you have it kind of right, theoretically it should work. The reason I like doing it my way and in the cases, all the bolt holes are there for reference. The case itself can be a little different because they are getting to be over 20 years old, guys. You know, nothing stays perfect forever. So when you do this in the case, I think you are getting a more exact pump alignment, which is insanely crucial because there's no gasket. This isn't even like a head. You know what I mean? This is metal to metal, and it must be flat and perfect and everything. So the way I do this is we take a little speed handle and we just get them snug. Not tight. It needs to move. Both sides need to alternate in motion a little bit just to get them just right. And what you can do is bring it back, give it a snack, drop it like it's hot. Okay, we pick up our pump, use a screwdriver, dowel pin, I don't care what you use. Line it up with your first bolt hole, drop it down, and take a mallet and you don't hit it, tap it. Be very nice and easy with it. Nobody's smashing things like a caveman here. For God's sake, I know everybody's whining about a clawfoot hammer. I have a ball peen now. I still have my clawfoot. I'm gonna use it. But a hammer's a hammer, in my opinion. There's just that is the silliest thing to complain about. Okay, so what you're doing now is using the screwdriver to support the backing and using your little hammer to tap the face so where it is flush The bolt holes are all lined up. There is no overlap. And you saw what I just did. Like, just like tick, 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 done. Like, it's that easy. We're done. No messing with this big hose clamp turd box of... No. Look at this. And the reason I'm okay with moving this is because if you have your bolts snugged up just right, they shouldn't... The two faces and back shouldn't move against each other just by wiggling it around. That's what that firm tap of the hammer is for. So when you're all done, pull it straight up and out, grab, turn, let it chill. Okay, here's another thing. We have a very expensive air system in this place. I mean, it's probably worth more than a dyno in all reality. It is specifically set up for this transmission that we do the most of. If you pay attention in the other videos, I do use a torque wrench. I do not need it for this transmission. One, it literally isn't as sensitive as you think with that sort of thing. And number two, when you're a high volume shop, you do have luxuries like this. So for all the guys that have been building in their backyard, whining about, oh no, torque wrench, oh my god, please stop. You have no idea what's going on here. It is not a powerful gun either, and it's regulated. If I could turn the cameras around and not have to mess with this again, I would show you guys. I'm probably going to post a picture of it someday, just to make everybody feel better, so y'all transmission builders can sleep good at night. Okay, I like a little extra grease when you're doing this, because one of the reasons in my scenario is I like these scarf cut rings. After some time, you know, let's say you put quite a bit of miles on this thing, these, instead of being solid and just kind of being there, the more your transmission wears over time, these have like a 1/4 inch of room where they can spread out more and more and more and more and adapt to that wear. It's just the smart thing to do that not many people really think about. And the grease keeps them wedged up in the, you know, where they're supposed to be. That way when you drop this in, you don't clip one. None of that when we have our guide washer here. Okay, O-ring pump. And we'll get some grease in here. Good luck putting an O-ring pump in dry, or by hand for that matter. There are later style pumps that do not have an O-ring around the pump. You should not need any grease at all to put those in if you have it lined up properly. If you are having trouble putting one of those in, you definitely don't have it lined up properly. Please pull it out and start over. Gasket. Well, gotta go grab another one now. New gasket. Butterfingers over here. Okay, line that up appropriately. Maybe, I know you've probably liberally greased, you know, pretty generously the bore for this, but go ahead and rub a little around the pump. Don't hurt. Grease does not hurt this transmission. It loves it. Okay. Semi-important to get your bolt holes kind of lined up. I like to put the bolts in prior to seating this thing. Make sure you got those little O-rings on the bottom of your bolts. If you have a leak coming out your bell, it's not coming from the front seal or anything else, it's probably going to be one of these, and unfortunately at that point you have to pull the whole transmission out just for one little detail, one little O-ring. Yeah, hand thread them in a little bit. I like to keep opposite firm pressure with my hand and opposite firm pressure with the hammer. And notice I'm hitting it to where we're tapping, you know, nobody's back here reaming on it. So before anybody gets keyboard happy, pay attention, pay attention. Okay, crisscross motion. Excellent. Now we have, here goes my water bottle. Front seal. And a retainer, which I don't have right now, but I will get prior to finish or before finishing. Honestly, I've debated whether they are critical or not if you actually don't have one, because the way this works is, even though you pound it in and there is pressure on it, there's very little. And what the science that's happening here is this metal and this aluminum have different expansion rates with heat. So that's why I've personally never seen this push out unless you had a serious pressure issue, but I guess it can happen, so it's smart to put one on. And even though I haven't done it right now, just give me a minute, and I'll put one on at the end of the video. Lockup O-ring. Do not forget it. If you build your own, install a transmission, no lockup, that'd almost be the first thing I check next to putting the solenoid in there. Okay, I'm just going to take a minute to check the front. Very nice. End play on these, not too critical. You don't want a ton of end play, like 50, 60 thousandths, but you should be, you know, somewhere around 10, 20, 30. This transmission was never overly sensitive to end play like the 4L80 or the 400. Just make sure you have movement. Another important thing to check way before I'm doing it is give your low reverse clutches and steels a poke. You should have, again, not critical on the clearance, but you should have about a steel's thickness of gap there. Okay, easy thing here, wiring harness. I've done a video just recently about how to actually put your plug on this thing. So just to go over it quick again, little tab right there, okay? There's a slot also in the casting of the transmission. If you are one of them guys that just slams up in there and pushes this thing down and calls me complaining you need a new harness because it pushed down, I'm going to tell you no, you don't. And you need to drop the pan, put it back up, and do it the right way. Take a screwdriver, and if you're, I've gotten, some of us don't have the luxury in our vehicle. If you can fit that transmission plug up there in your fist, you can either find a tool or make a tool to get in here, because it doesn't take much. And if you want me to do it, I would just, as soon as I seen it, I'd probably use a coat hanger on the very worst scenario. Bend it all kinds of ways, stick it up, and bam, plug in. It also helps, there's a little arrow on your car plug too. Line it up with this little green tan piece. That's where it goes. If you don't line it up, yeah, you're probably going to have problems. But again, You guys are building race cars that go very fast and are very dangerous if not operated properly. And you're building these cars too, so I want to assume that some common sense would be there. But that's not everybody. Okay. Home stretch, guys. Home stretch. So what you want to do here is a lot of the, I keep checking my mic just to make sure that's what I'm looking at because I'm dying on battery. Ball for second gear. You want to put that in or you'll have a second shift from hell. Unlike a lot of the other transmissions, that is the only ball other than the reverse ball and the third accumulator capsule ball that would go in the transmission. Fortunately, most of the time, this ball, the low reverse, and the third accumulator ball are perfectly okay. They don't, you need to check them, vacuum check if you are able at home, but otherwise they typically don't go bad. We replace them on a case-by-case basis. And on a trans brake, you actually have to remove that low reverse check ball altogether in order for it to function properly. So we have our valve plate. It's a Transgo 4696, and this is our shift kit and all that, part of it anyway, and I'm not going to go over that, but one of the important things to note is this little screen right here, that needs to be put in. If you don't put that in, then the shift solenoids, as small and fine as they are, could be subject to a little bit of debris. Transmissions shed debris. I don't care if you got a brand new from GM. That's why there are screens in here. It is not a sealed unit, but it's a sealed unit. One thing you might have noticed, for the guys that are a little savvier, did not put in the fourth gear accumulator piston, pin, or spring. There is a reason behind that. If you reroute some hydraulics a certain way and you leave that out, then what that does is it completely eliminates another potential leak for third clutch or fourth gear, and it provides lube for the rear planets in all the gears, not just fourth. So there's a double benefit to just totally disregarding that piece altogether and rerouting the hydraulics to the necessary paths. We have a little retaining plate and 3 8mm bolts. And our second accumulator. We use our second accumulator. We do not block accumulators. That is the wrong way to firm up shifts. Companies that block accumulators, watch out for those guys. They're giving you the most generic thing you could possibly do. That started as like a backyard thing. It's a horrible idea. The accumulators are there for a reason. They cushion the blow against parts. Our shifts, everybody loves the way we set theirs up, however it may go. So one thing that does stay consistent throughout all the builds is we do not mess with that guy. He's important. He's there for a reason. It is okay to increase the spring tension a little bit to soften the shift if it is too hard for you through this. But as far as firming it up, taking springs out or completely blocking it, that's a no-no. And that is some of the most backwoods stuff I've ever seen. I would not be proud of that. If you don't have access to alignment dowels, I think they're completely unimportant. There are 2 holes here. One is in the upper left-hand corner, and one is the second hole down to the right, which is your first pressure manifold switch bolt, which I am also missing that switch. I'm actually going to go get one before we go any farther. And I have things in a million places around here, so go take a looky and see. Had a little bit of dust on it from sitting there so long. So, and cleanliness, back to that, you know, that's a new part and all that. It was a little dusty. Clean the stuff off, clean it thoroughly. Going into this guy, we extensively modify this part. And I'm never ever going to tell you about it. Because again, every build's different. There's no one way to set it up. It makes us unique, makes our product better. Gives you way more fun features while you're driving it. So, among the parts of vacuum checking, flat sanding, we have a new EPC, new shift solenoids, Transgo metal forward piston. I've custom made a few of the valves, and you know, that's about as far as I'm going to get into it. So I'm sorry to disappoint you guys over and over and over again, but hey, it's okay. Figure it out. And even if you had one of ours and got the opportunity to reverse engineer it, good luck figuring out what the modification actually does overall and where else it is. So, to be honest, I wouldn't even bother. Me and Frank, we're very good at covering our tracks on this. Okay. You'll notice I didn't put a 7th ball in either. There's a reason for that. That goes back to just making it work better. Sometimes leaving things out has a purpose, and it does work better. I can hear y'all now. What did he do? Oh man. But what I will tell you is, I'm out of lube. So, this stuff, you're in a pinch. This stuff's pretty much the exact same thing as Vaseline in your wife's medicine cabinet. It just has some blue, green, or yellow dye in it, whatever color you order. But Vaseline, perfectly safe for your transmission, as long as it is petroleum jelly, not some water-based Astroglide Vaseline or whatever. No, that will hurt it. All the clutches are water-soluble glue, and they will disintegrate if any little bit of that gets in there. So we have our balls. We have our balls seated and gooed up. That really doesn't sound appropriate at all. Frank's laughing at me. I'm doing this. I'm just doing this, Frank. I'm just doing this. Alright. So another thing is, everybody's probably going to be screaming right now that I don't have alignment dowels. Truth be told, if you are just, one, you need to be careful no matter what you're doing on a transmission. And number two, if you genuinely need alignment dowels to put a valve body on and you can't just push straight down, maybe reconsider career path change. Just advice. And these gaskets, they're pretty hard to tear. They're pretty tough. Okay, I leave the tensioner on. Some people don't. I find it easier that way because it kind of rests and gives me a vantage point where I can just simply push straight down. A lot of people think it gets in the way. I think it helps. Then we have our pressure manifold switch that I was talking about. Woohoo! I am really cutting this battery close. Alright, now we're just gathering up all the little 10 millimeters, and there are a lot of them. Near every transmission is just covered in 10 millimeters, so if you're that guy that just loses that, this may not be the project for you. However, on a positive note, Harbor Freight, my favorite store, and the official store of Performabuilt transmissions, has a whole pack of 10 millimeters that you can buy in all sizes together on sale. Usually. Of course, everything's on sale there. Okay, all we're doing is hand threading all of our 10 millimeters in. These 3 8 millimeter long bullets. 8 millimeter long guys right here. These go here. No other spot will accommodate them. You will lock down your transmission if you put them in another spot. It makes contact with the sun shell, and you might get lucky. You might just shear them off quick when you fire it up, and they might fall in your pan and you might be good, but probably not. It will probably lock it down or make a loud noise. Okay. Fancy crisscrossing going all over. Swap back to the 10 millimeter. 8's done. And now, usually on these harnesses, this pressure EPC wire, they kind of make it a tad long. I like to wrap it around that way. It can't get pinched on your pan rail if you were servicing the unit. And the new harnesses also, they tend to be rather stiff, but I assure you, the first time they heat up, they will go right where they belong. And a little grease on your TCC solenoid, and then we'll be plugging in the PWM solenoid to finish off our build here. 2 last 10 millimeters. I do have an extra bolt laying there. It really would belong on either the second accumulator or the pressure manifold switch, but things do wander around here, so often. It's okay, I'll keep it as my next alignment dowel. Okay, and a clip. My plethora of springs. Okay, let's lube up our PWM solenoid and finish this bad boy off, because I think I have about 10 minutes of juice left on my mic. See what I mean? Especially this guy. This never wants to sit quite right until you get a filter on it, so don't worry about it. Anyway, all done. So, just to give you guys, you might as well stay here a second. Just to give you guys a quickie looky-see, we're gonna slap just a mock pan on it. I use deep pans. This is a shallow pan. And a mock gasket. This is really the dyno test pan. and I'm only putting 4 bolts in it just for video purposes. Nobody's gonna sit there and watch me screw in 16 bolts. Wonder bar. Okie dokie. Now I'm gonna give it the old signature of approval. And there we have it. Performabuilt level 3, good for 900. 900 wheel horsepower based on 3,800 to 4,000 pounds. And I will put that seal retainer on here after the video when I go find one. But this is available for $31.95. That is a hell of a deal for what this offers. It is built either by myself or by my mentor. We are the 2 best guys for the job here. We are doing it when no one else is, and we are making waves in the world. Frank, on your way back, can you hit that button? Done with the video. Frankie's going to kill my feed, and you know, I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope everything kind of gets back to normal. Everybody stay safe. Car guys, work on your car. Stay home. And I will try to do another video soon. Take it easy. Ryan from Performabuilt. Go ahead.